2, 3, 4.
Come a little bit closer, hear what I have to say. Just like children.
Morning, sweetie.
Good morning, honey.
Well, it's a beautiful day outside. Don't have to worry about a fire in the stove. It's supposed to be in the mid 80s or low 80s all this week.
Yep.
Sunshine for as far as the eye can see.
And it's Easter Sunday weekend.
Yep. Tomorrow's Easter.
So we're recording a day early just to get it done. And it's been quite the week.
Allergy season in far northern California.
Yeah.
For those of you who suffer from it. I'm not one of those, but I can empathize. I can have compassion for people that do.
Yeah. And it's always trying to figure out what's going to help and not hinder your life and taking the medicine. I tried Claritin D this week and found out it makes me really tired and it does weird things to my brain. It's weird. I would be sleeping, and while I was sleeping, I was either problem solving or doing something for work while I was sleeping. But when I woke up, I felt like I didn't sleep and that I remembered those thoughts. It was the weirdest thing. And so 3 days of exhaustion going through that. And then yesterday I went and got some regular Allegra, hoping that it will just help with the allergies. But I woke up with a huge headache today, but I took some ibuprofen, feeling better now.
Plus, it was spring break for you this past week. So we've been trying to get a whole lot of other stuff done too as well. And of course, it didn't help that the allergies kicked your butt. So your motivation probably wasn't where it was previous to that.
No, I was thankful on, I think it was Thursday. I didn't take any Claritin D. And I actually got some house cleaning done. I got the windows done. Got this front window kind of clean. I missed some spots, but that's okay. And got the dusting done because that's another thing that bothers my allergies bad. So I got to get the dust down. And I hate dusting for that reason because it causes my eyes to itch and not to feel good. But, and then it's just trying to work through my thought processes during that time and struggle with it. Sometimes it feels like if I'm down and out, then you become down and out sometimes. Like, that's a struggle. Because in my mind, I'm thinking, God, if I felt better, I'd be doing all this stuff. And that's not the case. Those control issues needed some work this week. So,
Well, we did get some stuff done. We met with a financial advisor.
yeah,
Possibly putting you on the 5-year plan for retirement.
5 to 7 years. We're
5
going to
to
say
7.
that 5
Yeah.
to 7 years, depending on how, because we have 11 years of a house payment left. So,
Yeah, 11 years this month.
yep. So we had a little kerfuffle yesterday because in my mind I got up and I self-care when you don't feel good is super difficult because you want to throw in the towel. You want to be like, screw it, I don't feel good, and you want to use it as an excuse not to continue on your self-care journey. But really what you need is that self-care. So I had to cancel last Monday for the gym because I had vertigo, horrible vertigo. Every time I turned my head, or all night long, anytime I turned from one side to the other, I got really dizzy and nauseous, and like I had been drinking. It was that bad. Like I had drank too much tequila the night before. And in case you don't know this already, I am not a drinker. I don't drink tequila. But I woke up like it was horrible, and I almost had like a hangover feeling because the night was so horrible. So I went ahead and texted Alan, our trainer, and I just said, hey, I'm not going to make it in today. I just need a day to kind of figure out what's going on and figure out, how to solve this issue. Kept my Wednesday appointment, and we went that Monday when I was super dizzy. We went to Costco and I got the Claritin D, and I took it, and I slept like really hard for a nap on Monday. I took a nap on Tuesday because I was still taking the Claritin D. Wednesday, I waited to take the Claritin D until after the gym, and then I took it, and then again, I kind of felt those, it wasn't doing an exceptional job, but it was helping me with the dizziness. So that's why I took it 3 days in a row, because it helped with the dizziness. Because what's happening is there's something in my inner ear from my allergies that's causing me to get the vertigo.
Inflammation, most likely, yeah.
Right. So on Thursday, I decided not to take the medicine because I was going to wait until take it at night, like at 3 p.m. after I get my stuff done, because an hour after taking that medicine, I literally lose the wind in my sails and I feel super tired. So I waited until 3 p.m. to take it, and I knew the tiredness was coming. So I made myself something hot to drink, and I got a blanket and I curled up in front of the television just waiting for the nights to come, because I knew it was going to happen. And it did. It totally did. And then yesterday I decided, okay, I'm not going to take that medicine. I'm going to go get some regular Allegra and help with the allergies. And if I need to take that medicine, if it gets super bad, I'll take it. Maybe even take a half of one, or something. But I didn't take it all night last night. I had the super dizzy spells. I literally feel like I'm hugging my nightstand through the night because I'm catching myself with the dizziness. I stood up this morning and it was like, ooh, I'm like, I don't know if I should, I'm still trying to work it out. Anyway, long story short, yesterday morning, I had it in my mind. I'm going to get up, I'm going to go to the gym, and then I've got to go drop some, because I did spring cleaning on Thursday. I cleaned out my closet of all, I had 3 bags of clothes and a box of shoes I needed to take to Goodwill. I had a whole bunch of stuff from the prior week that I needed to take back to work, including my work computer and all this stuff. And I had this system that I was trying to get through. And as I'm finishing getting ready in the shower, you come in and you're like, oh, I just need to do something to my hair. I'm going to go with you. And I had to leave within the next 7 minutes.
Well, for my part, I did not communicate clearly because I had it in my head that I was going to go with you. We were going to take one vehicle, save on gas, blah, blah, blah. But I did not communicate that clearly. That is on me, absolutely.
Well, I didn't even know you were going.
I know.
I had no clue whatsoever. And
because I didn't say anything, and that's my fault.
And I am not my normal self. I am edgy and pokey, and I'm rough around the edges right now because I'm trying to figure out what's going on with me. Mm-hmm. So outwardly, I look like I'm being an ass, and that's not my intent. But that's what it looked like, because then I'm like, fussy at you, like, what do you mean you're going to go? I have to leave in 7 minutes. I got to go. My plan was to da, 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 da. And, you know, this is just to show you that in relationships, it's never perfect. It's never the way you expect it to be all the time. And then you have to veer back and communicate. And sometimes the way we communicate isn't effective. So
Something we're working on, though.
yeah, you have this way of doing avoidance when there's a miscommunication, and I have a way of I have control issues when it comes to those things. And then what happens when you start implementing your avoidance factor, I start implementing of he doesn't want to be with me factor. And so those things do not go well together. It causes my thoughts to run down rabbit holes of you know, issues around trauma about being abandoned, issues around not being liked, you know, and not being good enough. And then, you know, what we do with those thoughts, because of my work with Jason Seib, I am able to say, how is that helping me right now? That's not helping me. Stop. That's not helping me. Stop those thoughts. Why am I ruminating on that? There's no reason for that. And I can get past it. But it's still, then I go back and I still hit that wall of avoidance that you're doing. And so then it bounces me back into my negative thoughts. And so it's really an unhealthy balance in a moment. And this doesn't happen all the time between us.
Pretty rare.
But when it does happen, it makes it really hard to do any planning of family stuff, because in my mind, I'm like, I don't even want to be around him if he's going to be avoiding me, if he's going to treat me that way, you know. And I don't know if you do avoidance because of fear of how you might react to me. I don't know. Talk a little bit about that.
Well, I would call it maybe a cooling off period instead of continuing a disagreement where it might get heated. I tend to back off and say, okay, well we will continue this later. It's like whenever the girls were growing up and you and Casey had arguments, then you would say, well, I love you too much to argue with you right now. And then she goes, well, you can't use that against me. Well, that's kind of the strategy I was trying to employ is it wasn't going to be any good to continue arguing. I thought it best to have a cooling off period. And I think, well, we did have a cooling off period, but then that threw you into rumination.
Well, I can handle my rumination. That's been better because of the mindset work that I'm doing. But the question that I continue to think about is, with the cooling off period, there needs to be a time of discussion.
Yeah, I agree.
You know, a time to say what's on your mind, and you know, what is the purpose of the avoidance, because avoidance sometimes, or the cooling off period, can also be another issue of itself. Because if we don't speak about those expectations and how we're feeling, then we can never get to the bottom of how can we avoid that happening again.
I agree.
You know?
And I think as human beings, we're both works in progress. I try to work on equanimity, meaning have an even keel emotionally. not trying to have too many highs and lows. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I'm more willing to escalate so that we can have the conversation. Not that I'm looking for it, but I think it's important that we talk about those things so we don't spend a full day isolating from each other. You know, that's the way a lot of couples do it. And then it escalates into saying things you don't mean. And I think that's what you're trying to avoid, not saying something you don't mean. And what I'm trying to avoid is seeming like I'm accusing or pointing the finger. Because it's not about that. It's about, hey, in that moment, I just was trying to figure out how to navigate my morning, and we have some stuff we need to talk about. And I sometimes I don't want to let it go. I want to have the conversation so we can get it out on the table, and sometimes we got to organize it and figure it out together as a team. But sometimes that's undoable when emotions are high.
Yeah, sometimes you have to separate and let things calm down for a bit. But you're right, it is important to have that conversation about stating your case. Why did I do a certain thing or feel a certain way or say a certain thing at that particular moment? You hear the thunder of puppies running amok. One of them just found his way in.
Yep. So it's hard, in going through the week as we did. There were opportunities for things to get done. So I was trying to work my way through on how do I get through this and still be able to get stuff done. So I started using a strategy that I often use is, hey, if I do this, can you do that? Or do you want to, what do you want to do? In order for us to get that groove back into what it needs to be. Because I'm not sure if sometimes some of the situations we find ourselves in are because we have certain expectations of each other that are not being met.
Well, that's often a strategy that you've used as even on good days. Well, do you want to feed the dogs or you want to do dishes? Or
right,
because we have a choice. We're going to divide and conquer. You give each other the option of what you would rather do, and that works for us.
Well, and I expect the same in return. I want to be asked directly instead of passively. I don't do well if I'm not spoken to directly. So, hey, I need your help with this. Can you help me do this? Or, did you want to, make dinner tonight or do the dishes? Or do you want to, that tells me that you're wanting help. And I think sometimes there's a quiet expectation that's not verbally announced.
Right. And we are notoriously bad at reading each other's minds. We've demonstrated that time and time again. You had a mouthful of coffee when I said that. Sorry. I'm sorry.
It's true. It's true.
So you have to make those expectations out loud and clear without well, she didn't help me with this, and therefore, she doesn't want to help me. Oh, did you ask? Did you say anything out loud? Did you say, hey, I need help with this? And that's something I work on too.
Well, I think problems arise when you start assuming people should know what you're thinking.
Well, yeah, you know what happens when you assume.
Yeah.
You make an ASS out of you and me.
Yeah. One of the things that I try not to do is to make those assumptions that you should know what I'm thinking. So I try to say it out loud. And some of the things you think that person should already know. Like, we're in this together. If I'm the only one doing the housework, then you should be doing something to add to the work that I'm putting forth, unless you're only at 30% and you need a day in bed. Like, if you're running at 50% and you just don't have it in you for that day, being able to describe that. But if you're at 100% and you feel good and you just don't want to do it, that's not an excuse. Not wanting to do it is to me an unfair example of what we need to do. So if you just don't want to do things, well, we all have days we just don't want to do it, but it's got to get done. No one's going to come do it for us.
Yeah, wouldn't that be great if somebody...
No, it wouldn't be great, because I get great satisfaction completing something that I maybe didn't want to do, but I did it anyway. And then I look at it and I'm, God, I'm so glad I cleaned the house today. I feel so much better without all the dust everywhere. Or, the floors are clean. I can walk barefooted and feel good with my floor. I'm a stickler for clean floors. I gotta have my floors clean. That's one of the reasons why I love that little automatic robot that is set off to go at, every morning at 11 o'clock now, because I can't handle not having clean floors. I can't handle, and I don't believe in cleaning over clean. I clean things when it needs to be cleaned. And that's another piece of that. Like, at what point, where's your tipping point of needing something to be cleaned? Or do you even recognize that? Like, and I think as a couple, we need to have that conversation. We need to say, when the floors get to a certain point and you start seeing, puppy dog balls of hair everywhere, it's time to clean the floors. Or, if you start seeing, dust or plants dry, or, the grass is taller, we need to set, what's that look like to you comparatively to me? I think it's important to have that conversation.
That way you set your expectations and you set yourself up for success. Instead of assuming that the other person knows what your tipping point is. I agree.
Yeah. So no one's going to know, Broomhilda is not going to know to come and just clean my floors and clean my house for me. I don't get the advantage of having someone to clean my house for me, so that I can be outside and dig in the dirt, which is my favorite thing to do. When I have to do both, when I have to do the house and do the outside stuff, it is overwhelming to me. And sometimes I go into shutdown mode. I'm like, it's just too much. I'm just going to go to bed. So that tells me that my percentage is way lower than I'm needing it to be. And I'm not sure how to get past that sometimes. It's hard for me. Because I'd much rather be outside, burning or cutting or planting or doing the gardening. I've been unable to do that at all spring break because of my allergies. So I was inside trying to get stuff done. And part of me made the mistake of making the assumption that you should know, since I'm inside doing all this stuff, you should be outside doing the things I can't do because it needs to get done. But I just made that assumption. That you should know that. And that was my own fault. I should not have made that assumption. I should have asked you, hey, while I'm inside, can you do this outside? And I did. I finally did. I said, hey, could you check the sprinklers today so we can make sure the sprinklers are going? And then at least that got done. And now you have an idea of what needs to be fixed or what needs to be addressed so that the sprinklers are running and things get watered outside. Because it's 80 degrees. It's not going to change anytime soon. I think we had 2 days of spring and now we're going into, a mild summer and it's going to get hot. And so the sprinklers are super important. And there's lots of gardening stuff I need to get out and do, but I got to get my allergies in order first. Otherwise, I get out there, and when I come in, my ears are ringing, like loud ringing, and my dizziness gets worse. And then it's weird. I don't remember having allergies like this before. It used to be I'd sneeze. I remember one time I sneezed so much I had to climb in the shower because I was sneezing so hard, my body orifices lost all control. And so I had to strip off my clothes and get in the shower and start a hot shower because I was sneezing so much and runny nose, and I would constantly itch my nose and my eyes. But it's different this year. It's like a dizziness. It's like a ringing in the ears. It's different than what I've experienced with my allergies.
Well, I think getting a little bit into tree horticulture, it is what they call a mast year for oak pollen. Mast, M-A-S-T, typically means the trees overproduce. Some years, all the oak trees will overproduce acorns. The next year, they'll hardly produce any. So that's called a mast year when they overproduce. This is a mast year for pollen, for oak pollen specifically.
And I'm severely allergic to oak pollen.
Yeah, and we have oaks everywhere. This is far northern California. We've got, I don't know how many oak trees we have.
Just talking about it makes my eyes itch right now.
But yeah, today, or this year, this spring has been particularly bad.
The whole time we were down in Santa Clara, I went to Santa Clara last week for that training. The whole time I was down there, my eyes were just watering like I was crying. People were like, "Are you okay?" I'm like, "It's just allergies. So sorry." It's embarrassing to me. But my eyes were watering so much, and they just wouldn't stop watering. And then when I came back after that trip, my allergies hit me hard. Super hard. And as much as I hate the canned air and I want fresh air to come in, I almost don't want the fresh air right now, which is sad because I like my windows to be open. I like fresh air going through my house, but it's very difficult because, 30 minutes into having all the windows open, I'm miserable. It's so bad right now.
That has to be part of your self-care because also, kudos to you for going to the gym when you didn't have to. You skipped Monday, you went Wednesday. You could have easily bagged out Friday and say, "I'm not going because I have A, B, and C to do." But you went anyway, and you took care of yourself. I went Friday for a third day.
And I kind of snapped at you a little because you wanted to climb in my car after you didn't plan and didn't tell me you were coming. And then I was snappy.
Well, I didn't communicate that, so that's on me. I didn't communicate what my intentions were, because typically in the morning we have a routine. If we're going to go to the gym, we have a sequence of events that we go through in order to get ready and go. And you were already well on that train of getting in your car and leaving, and I'm like, "Oh, hey, I'm going too," and it kind of disrupted that plan. So that was on me for not communicating.
And then my mind is, he only wants to go with me because I might take him to breakfast. He only wants to be with me because we might go somewhere and have brunch or something.
He's only using me for food.
My poor husband. And it's funny how our thoughts will do that. Mm-hmm. Not because I really feel that way.
It's because people have taken advantage of you in the past.
My whole life, people have, because I am what you call, and you have a word for it. It's a psychology word, where I'm very motivated and I push towards my goals and I get things done. Not flamboyant, but what's that word? Choleric. So, describe that a little bit. The four things, just so that we can get listeners on the same page of what that is.
There's a series of books by an author. Her name is Florence Littauer, and she have a series of books: People in Power, Profiles in Power. I don't have a list of of the books in front of me, but it's basically there are 4 personality types that she talks about, and I think it was Plato that first talked about these personality types. There's phlegmatic, people that are laid back, low key, low maintenance, not very motivated. They don't. They dress kind of sloppy. They're laid back, and that's one personality type. Then they have the sanguine. The sanguine are very up all the time. They're very big personalities. They're very loud, very noisy. They plan lots of exciting things, but they don't follow through. They expect other people to do them. Hey, let's set up a committee so we can pick up trash alongside the road. And when it comes the day, everybody has their orange vests on and their little trash bags. She's nowhere in sight. Or he. Doesn't have to be a she.
What was that one again?
Sanguine. Then you have the melancholies. The melancholies are very ordered. They love beauty. They're very deep, emotional people. They love art and literature and poetry and fine wine, and they're very calm, very soft-spoken. They don't speak very often, but they're often very moody. But again, on the upside, very organized, very meticulous. When a melancholy eats a bunch of grapes, they have toenail clippers, and they clip off one grape at a time. That way they don't spoil the shape of the bunch of grapes. They don't just yank them off willy-nilly. But they're very organized, but they're also very moody, and they can go into a torpor or not quite a depression, but a very, very low affect. Then you have the choleric. The choleric are the bossy, take charge. They are organized. They will make you do stuff by their sheer force of will. They're in charge, absolutely in charge, and you will not question their authority. They will, when they make a U-turn on the road, if there's a curb, they will hop that curb. They will jump right over it and say, "Get out of my way." They're take charge, which is taking charge is very good in emergency situations. If you want to be a general in charge of an army, you need a person like this. But they tend to not be able to relax and relinquish control momentarily to be able to relax. Other people around them don't feel relaxed because they're always in charge. Mm-hmm. Everybody is a blend of all 4 of these types. There's the sanguine, the melancholy, the choleric, and the phlegmatic. Everybody is a combination.
Right.
Where you are on this 4-cornered spectrum depends largely on your upbringing, your personality type, situation.
Yeah.
I'm more of a melancholy phlegmatic. That's the way I've tested. There are a couple of Florence Littauer's books has a little personality test, how you react in certain situations, how you answer these questions, and she will, by answering these questions, they will kind of assign you where you are in the spectrum. You tend to be more sanguine choleric, which is not a total polar opposite of me, but we are kind of on the different ends of the spectrum. But that's one of the reasons that we work so well is that we are not the same. When you get 2 melancholies in a room, it's tough for them to function because they don't have anything to lift them up. Or 2 cholerics in a room will argue all the time because neither one of them is willing to relinquish control. So this was very extemporaneous. I didn't really prep for this. This is just by...
I know, but it's important. It's important because we're talking about the struggle. And those struggles sometimes come out in our differences and how we're thinking through them. Oftentimes, prior to the mindset work that I've been doing with Jason Saib, I would start to worry, I would start to really ruminate and really have some negative talk to myself and about you, which would convince myself of what's plan B. Like, I'm a fight, flight, or freeze. Sometimes I would fly. I'd be, okay, I'm out. I got to go. Not much would keep me grounded and keep me staying in a relationship when I don't feel valued, or if I don't feel like someone's going to take care of me, because I feel like I've taken care of everybody all the time, and sometimes I want to be taken care of, and I don't voice that a lot. I don't voice that what my needs are because of what you just described, control. And how I react in certain situations are based on my experiences or my ways of handling it in the past. And I've been changing those tapes. We have experiences and tapes that play inside our brains from years and years and years of how we grew up. And flight was one of those things. It was like, oh, it's not going to work. Go, and I believe that because of the work we've done together and because of our Sunday morning talks and our late evening talks and our continued conversations and being open, it's helped heal that for me, and helped me when I feel myself start to worry or be concerned, I question it now. How's that helping me right now? Is that true? No, that's not true. That's just what I'm thinking. Let that go. That has nothing to do with the situation. Or, when I start to ruminate, how's that helping me right now? It's not. I can't fix it thinking that way. Let that go right now. What is the reality? What is really happening here? And the reality is we had a moment of not communicating really well, and I just I've been at like 30-40% all week. I've been unable to, part of me feels like there's so much I wanted to get done for spring break, and there's so many things I wanted to have completed before we go on our vacation. And it's hard. It's hard when those things change and it's out of your control. So then I have to think about, what do I have control over right now? I have control over just getting myself better right now. That's what I need. That's what I need to focus on. I need to get better and feel better. That's all the control. I didn't have control over you. I didn't have control over the situation. I didn't have control over the kids coming. We had grandkids over coloring eggs yesterday. I had enough of being in my own head. It felt good to have the grandkids here coloring eggs, and I got to see both my girls. Those things to me are top priority, and all the rest of the stuff falls by the wayside. Family first. Always, 100%.
And being able to realize in the moment of the things that you have control over and the things that you do not, the only thing really you have control over are your thoughts.
And how you react.
And how you react, exactly. Pretty much everything else is outside of your control. And realizing what you can and can't control in the moment is really, really tough. It's tough to stand outside of yourself and stand outside of that moment and say, okay, I can't control this, and therefore I don't want to waste any energy in trying to control it or being frustrated because I can't control it. And it's tough to do. Stand outside of yourself and stand outside of the moment in that particular moment when you're so deep in it.
And to realize that the way you're thinking is the issue, not the circumstance itself.
Right. The stress versus stressors.
Right. So how you're thinking about it can be the thing that is causing you the stress, not the actual thing.
Right.
So the actual thing that happened was when I told you that I had the plan of going to Goodwill to drop some stuff off, going to the college to drop some stuff off, and then I was going to come back here, and you were waiting to feed the dogs till we come back, and I felt like that was a little late. We wouldn't get back here till 10:30, 11 o'clock, and the dogs are used to being fed. And it seems like that was the most important thing. And then you felt like, I don't know what you think. All I know is what I was thinking. But in my mind, I assumed you were thinking, well, that's all I'm good for is to feed the dogs. You know what I mean? That's all she wants me to do is feed the dogs. And I'm like, that's not what I'm thinking. What I'm thinking is, if I'd have known that you wanted to go with me, we could have gotten up earlier to ensure those things get taken care of before we leave. So we're on the same playing field. And then I got frustrated with that. I got frustrated with I don't do well with last minute things.
Yep.
And so that was my frustration. And then you shut down on me. And you voiced, well, the whole point was I wanted to go with you so we could save money on gas and we could be together. And then you went in to feed the dogs. And then the first avoidance action was not kissing me goodbye. Not even, pay. It was like you were mad. And then when you were at the gym, same thing happened. You walked by me and you said, are you all done? I said, yeah, I'm going to go drop this stuff off at Goodwill. I'm going to go get me some different meds. I need to go get some Allegra. And you're like, okay. And you walked away. And when you don't do the things you normally do, I go into thinking avoidance. And then because you're avoiding,
confrontation.
No, you're avoiding giving me a kiss goodbye or being a loving person. So you avoid being the person that you actually are because you're upset. And for me, I'm like, I didn't do anything. In my mind, I was like, what did I do? So instantly I go into that, he doesn't love me anymore. He doesn't want to be with me. And that is old tapes. That's what that is.
But I did realize that was a mistake. And I realized that was a mistake, and I ran out the door and chased after you, just like they do in the romantic comedy movies.
Oh, is that what we're going for? Romantic comedy movies?
Well, I did run out after you and say I love you and gave you a smooch.
You did.
I ran out to the parking lot.
You did.
Tried to fix that mistake. So you hear in the background our little robo-vac.
Yeah, I'm gonna dock it until.
Yeah. Tell it to go back.
Yeah. Yeah. I'll dock it and then. Anyway, so that was kind of where I was, and I left there thinking, you made an effort to come back out there, and I was able to say to you when you said, I love you, or whatever. I think that's what you said to me. And I said to you, it doesn't feel like it. And I was able to voice that. And then we both knew at that moment, I felt like that, okay, we've got to move on, and get past this.
So there's a complete post-mortem of a disagreement that we had.
Is that what you call it?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's hard sometimes. It's hard to... It's going. It's hard to feel that sometimes and see that sometimes for me. Because then I'm just... It's almost like a sadness. Not good enough, not smart enough, not able to move past it.
Old tapes playing in your head.
Yeah.
Forcing you to ruminate.
Yeah. But I was good at not ruminating. I knew I needed to take care of me and figure out, how to feel better and how to get better. It just took some time.
That RoboVac is still running amok.
It's figuring it out. Just leave it alone. It's all right. So what else? We talked about partner expectations and communication and how we get through that. Another thing that I just want to say that all couples have struggles. Even when things look perfect, all couples have struggles. It doesn't mean it's all the time. It could be a rare event, especially if your communication is good. I feel like we have good communication, but struggles are real. Struggles happen. And it's hard. So anyways, the thing that is super important that I want to kind of express is that, struggles are going to happen. And it used to be back before I emotionally became a little bit more mature, I would use that as an opportunity to exit a relationship. I would use that as an opportunity to be really hard on myself, that I don't deserve a relationship because I don't even know how to work in that relationship. I didn't have anyone teaching me that growing up, or I didn't have good examples, I guess you would say. I came from a family that was very, very much disorganized and really struggled in communicating without pointing fingers or without putting blame somewhere. And so I work really hard at not pointing fingers and not pointing blame, but it's a struggle. It's not easy. Those brain patterns are super deep. And so I have to first look at myself. What am I doing to contribute to this moment? What am I doing? What control do I have over this moment? And how can I get through this moment? Because no matter what, we're in this marriage together. And I've told you from the beginning, back 20 years ago, I told you the deal breaker for me is cheating. If you cheat on me, I'm done. I just will not tolerate that behavior. Cheating is I need to get, I need a moment. And it's like, no, you don't. You don't need that moment. If you need that moment, it should be with your wife and nobody else. And I believe that in my whole heart of hearts. And I know that there have been people, even people I know closely, that had a significant other that cheated and they've gotten past it. They've been able to get past those things. And maybe I could get past that. I don't know. All I know is I hadn't before.
Well, I'm not going to test that hypothesis.
Yeah, let's not test it. It's not healthy. However, cheating isn't just having a sexual relationship with another woman. It's about also, it could be cheating, looking at things on a computer that are unhealthy when it comes to relationships. Looking, that whole thing with what you can have at your fingertips on a computer is sad. It is sad to me. I don't even know what those are. I've never done those things. But from what I hear, those things are at the fingertips, and to me are the evil in this world. Things around children, or other things that can really damage relationships, and children and families. And I don't know what's out there in that cyberspace world, because I have no desire to go look those things up or look into those things, because I don't want that in my brain. That's why I struggle watching some movies that have a lot of death and corruption and evil, because I don't want that in my mind. I just don't want to even think of those things, because I'm fearful of what evil can do. I'm fearful of what bad circumstances can do to an individual, that it could be a good person sucked into that crap, and it can change the dynamics of any relationship.
Well, that's one of the I didn't really mean to introduce this into the conversation, but that's one of the things that people who have PTSD that they suffer from is they're constantly suspicious. They're constantly wary. They're doing a threat assessment on virtually everything and everybody. Mm-hmm. They want to make sure the doors are locked at night, and they double lock them and check them 2 or 3 times before they go to bed. And they're picking up their curtains and who's that stranger, and going down the road or out and about in a grocery store or Costco or anywhere else shopping. They're constantly their head is on a swivel doing a threat assessment. Is this person going to hurt me or my family? Mm-hmm. And that is something that's very difficult to overcome as well, because you don't really know. You have to assume that everybody, the people that have PTSD, assume that everybody is out to get them. It's not really a rise to the level of paranoia, but it is being hyper vigilant and expressing a desire to be safe, but they don't always entirely feel safe, no matter what they do.
Well, and that also goes along with someone that is in toxic stress relationships, where there's that toxicity of constant being verbally or physically or mentally abused, and children or significant others that are in those types of relationships can cause PTSD in their future relationships. And so, I see this too in families. So in my family, I recall my uncles, and bless their soul, they're in heaven now, so I'm going to talk about them. They never did anything. So I have one uncle that never did anything out of the goodness of his heart because he only expected something in return. He never did something for others because he was a good person. He did it because you might give him something. He's entitled. And then I had another uncle that was kind of that way, but he was also just a giving soul. He would give. So I had those 2 examples as men in my life. My mindset in the beginning, when I was a teenager, I remember thinking about how I didn't want to be like my uncle that only gave because he would give. So I didn't want to be like that. So I went the other route of I'm a giver. I'm a giving to people, and I never expect anything in return. And therefore, I attracted people that would take advantage of me. I attracted people that knew I would give everything of myself and expect nothing in return. And in doing that, I got abused. And I became a target specifically for narcissistic people. And so I had narcissistic relationships that just tore me up, and I wouldn't spend more than 2 or 3 years in that relationship, and came to realize in my sobriety that, oh my gosh, I'm a codependent. I am codepending on this person. I'm giving, and not setting my boundaries and not setting my expectations. And then when I did, so I had 2 narcissistic people take advantage of me because I was a target. They saw me coming. They saw me from a mile away. They were going to take advantage. My first marriage and relationship was not so much that way, but we both became we grew apart, we talked about this before in other podcasts, that people come in your life for a reason, a season, or for a lifetime. And that was a season relationship. It was a season of really partying and, and whatever. But I got a beautiful thing out of that relationship, and that was my daughter. I got a beautiful thing out of the narcissistic relationship, was my second daughter. But with that being said, I did not have a good picker. I did not know how to pick someone that made me feel safe, that made me feel valued, that made me feel worth it, that made me feel worthy of I deserved better. And that wasn't until I found you. And with you, I feel safe. With you, I can't, even though we have our struggles, I can't imagine a life without you. But at the same token, I get mad at you and want to use you as my mental punching bag of when I find myself struggling, I still do this battering of those old tapes that play inside my head. And then but I've gotten much better in doing some of this mindset work, in not allowing that to happen. But it takes mental practice. It's not something that comes easy. It comes with quieting my brain every morning and having control of my thoughts. So every morning I get up, it started out with a minute long, just meditating with just my breath, not allowing myself to think of things or even think of visual things. I had to practice at first and using a visual in my brain, and usually it's colors inside my brain. So I had to practice with 1 minute, and then 1 minute every morning I would set my timer and I would close my eyes and practice just listening to my breath. And then I've worked my way up over the last year. I can do a full 10 minutes depending on how I feel. Now, this medication that I was taking, the Claritin D, really messed with my thoughts. And I felt that during my meditation all week. And I struggled. I struggled getting my breath. And I kept having thoughts come in. And I would have to move those thoughts and say, no, I'm focusing on my breath. And it was a struggle this week. But I did my meditation anyway. So that's one thing that I've done to control what I think. And so when I have a situation where we have a conflict or we have a moment, it's almost like I instantly go into my breath. And I start breathing and not allowing myself to have thoughts. Because when you allow yourself to have the negative thoughts on top of the conflict, now I have the conflict and my thoughts. And I'm battling both those things. Instead of going, no, this happened because of this, we're going to get past it. It's going to be fine. It's just a thing. It's just a moment. And we'll talk about it later when things settle down. Like you said, that cooling off period. So that's one thing I am doing to help me when these things come up. Another thing that I'm doing is just taking the time to take good care of myself. Taking the time to... going to the gym is not selfish. Going on a walk is not selfish. I'm gonna do what I need to do. Asking my kids over to do time together is not selfish. And letting those things kind of unravel out and not feel bad, even though we're not 100% communicating. I'm still gonna move forward in life just like you are.
Your self-care does not have to stop.
It shouldn't. It needs to stay at the forefront. Because it's going to help me. It's going to help us when I take good care of myself. So the struggles are real. And the whole point of talking through that a little bit is understanding that conflict is there, but the way you think about that is where there can be some real issues. I can blow that up. Or I can keep it small in my brain as a woman.
Right. And being able to communicate that back and forth is absolutely critical.
It is.
It's because it's sometimes it's tough to be vulnerable and say, this is what I'm feeling right now. What I'm feeling may be wrong, may be right, but that's how I'm feeling. And being able to express that can be difficult for somebody who holds things in. Me, I tend to hold things in, play my cards close to my chest without wearing my emotions on my sleeve, which can be a good thing or a bad thing. I'm not saying one way or the other, but being able to be vulnerable and say, okay, this is how I'm feeling, and open yourself completely up, and trusting that the other person won't stomp on your feelings once they're open and out there. That's like opening up your chest and hoping they don't punch your heart. So that can be difficult, but it's necessary. Being vulnerable and saying, okay, this is how I feel. What can we do to get past it? And explain your side of what you thought and why you felt that way.
Mm-hmm.
So how are we doing on time?
We're at 1 hour.
An hour? Okay. Is there anything else we want to add?
Well, I just would encourage those that find themselves in that moment of uncertainty in the relationship because a miscommunication happened, or somebody said or did something that hurt your feelings, or, or things didn't go as planned, that you look at the circumstance and don't assume or make thoughts about it, and talk about those things specifically. And we knew right away in this circumstance that took place for us, we knew right away that it was the circumstance that was against us, and a lack of communication, and also a lack of feeling strong, healthy wise, and making things worse sometimes by not addressing, okay, that medicine is not working well for me. I need to go do something different. Self-awareness is super important. And knowing that in relationships, you're going to have ups and downs, and being able to ride that wave in a way that brings you back together and makes you stronger. And each time you get through those things, it does make you a stronger couple. Knowing that how you feel when things are peaceful and good, how your body's reacting, what you're thinking, how you feel when things are being challenged, and what your body feels like and what you're thinking, and then how you feel when you go into the red zone, and what your body does and what you're thinking. And that all of those things can be a continuum each and every day, day of the week, day of the, week of the month of the year, that we all have those roller coaster moments, and knowing that we can always come back to, the goal is not always being calm and perfect. The goal is knowing how to bring yourself and center yourself back to finding that place of calm and peace and quiet when you do get to those other areas.
And can you imagine throwing addiction into that mix?
I have years of addiction behaviors in relationships that I've had to struggle with, and I'm still recovering.
And in a conflict where a disagreement, argument, conflict, whatever you want to call it, people who are addicts would tend to retreat into that addiction, whether that addiction is food or drugs, alcohol, or whatever their drug of choice is. They would tend to retreat into that because they feel that is a safe place rather than a destructive place, and that the chaos of the addiction is something they're familiar with and comfortable with, and it's an easy place to retreat to. Mm-hmm. And that's where the 12-step programs come in. I'm not an expert on the programs, but I understand enough to where the part of the step is showing that this addiction is not healthy. It is not a safe place. It is destructive, and it should be avoided. Whenever you get into a stressful moment, you have a stressor, and you use that to become stressed, to not use your addiction as a safe place, to actually run the opposite direction.
And that can be really hard.
Yeah, and especially in the moment when you're not thinking clearly. But again, none of us are experts on the subject. We just know enough to be dangerous.
We're not doctors. We're not psychologists.
Not lawyers.
We're not lawyers.
I am studying philosophy, though, Stoicism.
Did you get to say everything you wanted to say?
I think so, yeah. I think we pretty much beat that horse to death. Which is the goal, to explore the topic enough to there should be not a whole lot of question. If you have any questions, put it in the comments below. Mm-hmm. I should know how to get a hold of us one way or the other. And I'll put some links down there to Florence Littauer's books, or Florence Littauer, the author, and you can explore her books. She's the one we were discussing that talked about the 4 different personality types, and that we are all a combination of those 4 personality types.
Yeah, and maybe in the future we can also talk about temperament.
Yes.
Because I think that's another piece of that puzzle. Discovering what your temperament is, and discovering what the temperament of your significant other, of what your children are, including the 5 love languages, and how we attend to that as individuals as well. All right. Well, thank you for listening. We hope you have a wonderful Easter. And thank you for hitting play today. And we look forward to any feedback from you. Share this with others that you think it might help. And have a fantastic week.
And thanks again.
Have a good day. Have a good week, honey. I love you.
Love you, sweetie.
Okay.